How do you stand out when you are in a market or a niche that is extremely saturated and it seems like there's new coaches, new consultants, new experts popping up every single day and you're like, what's going on? I don't understand. I don't understand how it's possible that everybody seems to be an expert in this area now. Like I don't get it. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Truly excited to kind of jump in there and give you an interesting perspective on this whole thing because I feel like there's so many misconceptions around how to communicate to an audience that's that's tired of getting so much information and so many things. And that's where I want to jump in because again, I feel like this is literally what I have become an expert at in the last few years. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about the different details that are necessary. The first thing that I want you to understand is that I truly believe that it's not that the market is saturated, right? You might think that it is, right? Yes, there are a lot of people selling to your audience, but the only reason why you might experience a saturation in the market, in your field, or in your niche is because there's a lack of depth in the message and in the things that you're sharing to that audience. Now, you might be like, what? What are you talking about, Fabi? There's no lack of depth. I'm going really deep and I'm telling all these things and I'm going into the specifics of what's necessary and all of that. And I don't understand why you would say that. I feel like we all believe that because we're experts in our area, we're doing things in a way that really is speaking to the right audience, but oftentimes without really realizing there's a lot of sameness. Now, I don't know if you know this, but every single week I literally hop on to dozens almost of what I call brand message assessments. And on these assessments, I evaluate people's brands and websites and give them very specific feedback and strategies and optimizations that they can make on their brand and their messaging to be able to attract ready to invest clients, to be able to grow their businesses. And one of the biggest issues that I see when I evaluate these brands and I evaluate these businesses is that there's a lot of clarity around why people should choose you. Why, when there's so many options, so many people, so many opportunities to solve this problem in different ways, why should people actually choose you? And what I want to kind of cover today is some of the strategies that you can immediately implement into your business right now to make sure that you're not struggling with this and you're not experiencing like this kind of sameness that I keep on seeing. So we're going to kind of talk about three different things that I believe are really, really important for this that will truly make the difference. So the first thing that is going to help you truly stand out in your audience is with your audience or in your niche is having a lot of clarity and understanding on who your audience is. And the thing is that this is one of those things where there's a lot of sameness. I call this like being the checklist client, right? Like you think, well, I understand my audience. My audience is made of moms, check. And they are professionals, check. And they have this thing going on, check, check, check. And it's like you have this little checklist or this avatar work that you did in some program that taught you how to define your audience. But there's a lot of lack of depth into really understanding who that audience actually is. You have to go a lot deeper to really define, well, what makes this person my ideal audience? Why is this person actually what I call the ready to invest version of my clients? Like, how do I speak to the person who will not only come on a sales call with you and be like, wow, this program is amazing, but will also be able to afford it and not feel like sticker shock when they hear the price or not feel like what's going on? I don't understand. And won't be like shocked by it, right? If you're experiencing a lot of that, like if you're hopping on sales calls or strategy sessions or whatever you want to call them, and the great majority of people, like 70 to 80% of the people that you talk to are people that are like completely don't understand who you are, don't understand what makes you different, don't understand how you solve their problem, that means that you're speaking to the wrong audience. So if you want to stand out in your market, it's very important that you understand who your audience is beyond the what are they called? Like the ideal client avatar exercises, the ICA exercises, and like all the little details that make you think that you know them. Oh, because you're saying something like you're tossing and turning at night and you can't sleep because you're struggling with this. You think that that's enough to define who your audience is? It is not, right? You have to go deep and define, well, why do they need to, first of all, what is the actual problem that my audience has? I think that that's regarding audience, one of the biggest issues, like, because people will say things that don't make sense. Just to give you an example, I just hopped off a call right now with somebody who had, their whole problem being that my audience has anxiety. And when you use something like that as like, I'm not going to help you solve anxiety or cure anxiety or get rid of it, however you would phrase that, what you're doing is attracting people that end up with so much anxiety that they can't figure out a way to hire somebody like you to solve that problem. So you need to understand what anxiety causes in this person and what this problem looks like in their day-to-day life. So you have to truly understand who your audience is. And the better you are at understanding them, the more specific that you can be with the symptoms and the problems that they are experiencing, the more that your content is going to start reflecting that. And therefore, that's going to be the thing that allows you to truly stand out in your market. Let me know in the chat or in the comments below if this is making sense to you so far. So again, first thing that we need to do to be able to stand out in your market is have a lot of understanding and clarity on the exact problem that your audience has and the symptoms that they're experiencing, what these look like in their day-to-day life, how they're living these symptoms, how they're living these problems, and how you can actually help them, which takes me to the second thing that you need to be doing in order to be able to stand out in a saturated market. And I actually call this amplifying your angle of mastery. So like I was mentioning before, I hop on brand message assessments every single week. By the way, if you go to brandmessagesession.com, you can book yours right now. You and I will literally hop on a 15-minute call where I will give you highly specific messaging insights that you can immediately implement into your business to help you optimize your message and attract better quality leads. So one of the things that happens on that brand message assessment is that I see that people sound the same. Everybody sounds the same. Everybody looks the same. The offer is the same. And you're not giving me a reason to pick you. Why you? Why, when there's like 500,000 coaches in that same niche that are talking even to the same problem, why do I pick you to be the coach when there's probably somebody a lot cheaper than you out there as well? The answer to this is you having a lot of understanding around how do you reveal your angle of mastery, your expertise in a way that makes you truly differentiate yourself from everybody else. And part of that is by giving through your content light bulb moments where you're shifting beliefs, where you're giving them breakthroughs that they've never even thought about before. Part of that to me is, for example, going deep into explaining what the root cause of your audience's problem is in a way that they've never heard it before. At the end of the day, and I always say this to people, like, you might be a relationship coach or a mindset coach or a health coach. It's not really that revolutionary what each and every one of you does. Like, it's not like it's this method that is completely radically different than anything else. For the most part, there's a lot of sameness, but your job is to figure out, how do I present something that might solve the same problem in a similar way? How do I present that as it's like, this is a completely, absolutely different thing that I've heard before? Because the number one objection that your ideal audience has at this very moment is simple. Will this work for me? I don't know if this is going to work for me. So the only way that you can prove to them that it will work for them is by showing them that what you do is different than the things that they've tried to do before, right? So the more that you're able to bring that, to shift beliefs, to give a different level of understanding, the more powerful your message is going to be, and the more likely that you're going to be able to truly stand out in a market that is very saturated. The issue that I see is that everybody is doing the same thing. Like, 3 secrets to do this. These are the 3 steps. Like, you're giving a lot of how-to content and a lot of content that is okay, like you might, I think that what happens is that you see other coaches that are doing this and being successful at it. So you think, well, maybe that's what I need to do. And a lot of people just sound the same. And you're giving the same tips in slightly different ways, but there's no real authority behind what you're sharing. There's no real leadership behind how you're expressing these things. What you need to do is sophistication in your message. Bring that sophistication. How do I go a level deeper than what I've been doing before? Because what I always say is that surface level content attracts surface level clients. And oftentimes what we do is we create content that is very simple because we think, well, I need to keep it simple, or I need to educate my audience a little bit more, or any of those things. And that's not necessarily true. What you need to do in fact is, how do you shift these people's beliefs? How do I create content that gets my audience to see that I am actually different, that I am actually unique? The more that you're able to do that, the more that not only do you differentiate yourself, but you become the only one in your category doing this work because it's completely different, right? This is literally what we've done in our own business, right? Where in the beginning, I used to be like a very general, like, hey, I'm going to help you build a brand that attracts, and I'm going to help you define your message, and I'm going to help you do these things, which is great and sounded great on paper. It wasn't really a thing that was making me different from everybody else. What did make me different is when I started incorporating more this idea about how to speak to the ready to invest clients. The Ursula, if you've heard me talk about it. So the Ursula is this whole concept I created, even your angle of mastery. These are all concepts, methodologies, processes, systems that I've built in my business that are uniquely mine, that make me different from everybody else. I talk about a lot of these things and how to attract these ready to invest clients. If you go to readytoinvestclients.com, I have a 20-something minute video that walks you through the exact process to how to speak to that level of audience and how to attract those ready to invest clients in. But my point really is that the more sophisticated your message, the more powerful the things that you say are, the more likely you will be at attracting these people in and standing out, because it's not anymore about the market being saturated. It's about like, what you're doing is different, right? So that's the second thing that you can do to be able to really stand out in a market that is highly saturated. The third thing I feel like is simple, but oftentimes forgotten as well. And it has to do with your story, with bringing your own personality, analogies, experience, anecdotes into your marketing message, right? What happens often, again, is like, these are the three things that my client did to blank, blank, blank. This is the thing that you need to do to blank, blank, blank. But there's no authority behind that. There's no storytelling behind it. If you really want to be able to stand out in a market that is very saturated and your niche is like full of people that are popping up every single day, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? How can I be seen as an expert when somebody graduated from their certificate or got their certification maybe 2 weeks ago and I have 25 years of experience? How do I get people to notice me? It's really a lot about bringing storytelling and incorporating that, but also the leadership that comes with that. So what I mean with this is like, how do I embody my message? How do I make sure that what I'm selling resonates and is aligned with who I am and how I show up? And how can I show my leadership through my content, my vision, who I am, my personality, my ideas, my points of view, but through storytelling as well. And again, it's like one of those things that I'm like, why aren't people doing more of this? Why is it that people are kind of stuck in the same loop of telling their same little origin story? And sometimes part of the issue tends to be that these origin stories, you feel like, well, this isn't good enough because my origin story is pretty normal. I went to college, I did this, I did that, and now I'm here. Like, I don't have some like, well, I was born in the fields of like whatever, right? Like, I just watched the movie of A Million Miles Away this weekend of the Mexican farmer who grows up to become an astronaut in NASA. Like, that is a crazy story. Like, that's a crazy origin story, but not everybody has that. However, there's still value in your stories. What you need to figure out is, how do I relate my story to my audience? How do I relate who I am and what I'm here to do to my audience, with my audience? And how do I bring that power? How do I bring that leadership? How do I show up and embody that version of me who is the leader within my content. What happens is there's a lot of sameness. Everybody sounds the same. And that's why you feel that your market is saturated. That's why you feel like you're getting people saying, well, I need to find out more. I'm kind of shopping around and looking for a coach, because you're not giving your audience a reason to buy from you specifically. So recapping the three things. Number one is having a lot of clarity on exactly who your audience is. Not surface level type of like, well, this is like my audience is made up of women who are entrepreneurs. Or no, it's going into the depths of what are the symptoms, what are the scenarios that they're living. Go specific in your message so that they would read it and be like, how does this person even know? This is literally me. If you can bring in stats and data, not always going to be the case, but the more specific you are with those examples that you use in your messaging, the more that people will feel like this is different. Second thing is your message sophistication. And I call this your angle of mastery. So the more that you're able to present your point of view, your perspective, your beliefs, your ideas, your angle, your vision, your strategies, your methods in a way that sounds different. And it's all about packaging, all about positioning. How do I show my audience that what I do is different? That will be the thing that gets them results, and not the same thing that they've heard over and over again from a million people. How do I present this? The more that you're able to effectively do this in your copy, in your marketing, in your emails, in your webinars, in your TikTok videos, in your reels, in your carousels, in the content that you're putting out into the world, the more that you can incorporate that angle of mastery, the area where you're like the king of the category of one, the more that you stand out. In fact, there is no market. It's you become the market. And then the third thing is storytelling. How do I incorporate more storytelling? How do I bring in more of who I am in a way that makes me sound and feel truly different from everybody else out there? So those are the three things that you have to do. Like I mentioned, make sure that you go to brandmessagesession.com to book your 15-minute message session with the assessment, where I will evaluate your message and give you highly specific tips, advice, strategies that you can immediately implement. Go to readytoinvestclients.com to watch the 20-minute video on how to really incorporate some of these concepts. I go really deep into this, and follow me everywhere at Fabi Paolini. And I hope that this was helpful, and I will see you in another episode really soon. Bye. Bye.
Bye.